I know I shouldn't have looked at the camera footage from outside my home. That I should have just gone about my day, just as I always have. I should have just accepted the idea of bugs or random animals triggering the lights outside. Maybe then I'd be able to sleep easier at night, and it would smile at me the way it does. It was midsummer, and it was about the second time our cars had been broken into. My parents, of course, weren't happy with the invasion of privacy, and neither was I. Though the robber never seemed to steal anything, they just left our vehicles a total disaster. But nonetheless, it was a bit unsettling to have some random stranger rummaging around them. That's the moment they chose to install our 2 security cameras outside the house. They made sure our cars were all in view in case another intruder broke in. Then, we would be able to look back in the camera footage and show the police if it ever happened again. After a few days had passed, I started to be filled with an overwhelming temptation to check back on the camera footage from the past nights. Maybe it would catch whatever was constantly triggering our motion lights outside. Whatever it was, we never caught when we randomly chose to check outside, which was pretty rare, as we simply accepted the idea that it was nature going about its business, so we did the same. All I knew was how uncomfortable I felt deep down every time I saw the flicker of lights coming on outside late at night. I had no reason to, but I felt the slightest bit afraid, almost as if I already knew what was out there. But then again, I really didn't. It was a churning feeling within my gut that ebbed me very gently. My parents never seemed to be quite as worked up or as curious as me about the reason for the lights being triggered. Maybe I was just anxious at heart as much as I was curious. Or maybe it just wanted me to know that it was there. My mother had always told me about the worn-out phrase of curiosity killed the cat. But I was always naturally a very curious cat. I wanted to know everything and anything I could, and I was always a bit nosy, to be honest. And that's exactly what led me to the security camera footage that evening. An evening I'll never forget, no matter how hard I tried to. Our cameras weren't on TV 24/7 like they would be in something like a security room. In order to view it, you had to switch from our cable TV to our HDMI 2 with the remote. From there, you could see all the footage saved up to 2 weeks. Anytime it caught something moving within the frame, it saved the video. I instantly clicked on the saved video from the night before, expecting to see possibly a cute raccoon or a stray cat roaming around. Everything on the camera looked completely normal. Because it was dark out, the camera was in night vision mode, which meant it showed no color, just shades of black, gray, and white. Our 3 cars were in view from all 2 cameras aimed toward the driveway. Not a person or animal could be seen wandering around. That is, until something caught my eye from the side of the neighbor's yard, right next to our driveway. It was dark and hard to make out since the sensor lights hadn't turned on yet. But it seemed like a large, lanky person on all 4s. The way they crouched down was almost uncomfortable to look at. If it was a real person, they would have been breaking their arms and legs as they curved inwards. The moment its eyes shot towards the camera, I felt my heart fall into the pit of my stomach. The footage was from the night before, and yet I had felt like it was looking at me, as if it was boring its glowing eyes into my soul, searching without my permission. It finally began to move after a couple of moments. Its movements were slow and drawled out at points. The center of its body seemed to crouch closer to the ground as it moved, circling its head to scan its surroundings in an unsettling manner. Almost like a mix between a snake and a bobblehead, no matter how odd it may sound. The moment one of its arms made contact with the pavement of our driveway, that's when the sensor lights triggered. The sudden brightness was enough to cause me to shut my eyes tightly as it filled the entire screen with pure white before it adjusted. Once the camera had adjusted to the intense light as well as my own eyes, the sight before me could have sent me into a full-blown panic attack if it wasn't a recording from the night before. It was now somehow attached to the side of the garage, close enough to one of the two cameras for its entire face to fill the frame. Its eyes were bright and bloodshot as it continued to stare at the electronic device. The feeling of its eyes lingering on me somehow still filled me, causing me to check behind me now and then. It had no nose, just smooth, sickly, greasy white skin that continued all along its head. The pitch black mouth was what really scared me for some reason. It hardly looked like a mouth, as it was almost a horrible abyss or a black hole you wouldn't want to get caught inside of. Its grotesque, whitish skin even continued on past its face, acting as teeth in some way. Its jagged, sharp, leathery-looking teeth that sent horrific chills up my spine. As I turned to make another quick glance behind me, just in case, the sound of something tapping against glass came from the television. The moment I turned back around, the camera was totally black. That is, until I saw its long, darkened fingers slowly pull away from the lens. I didn't want to think it, but I almost knew the dark stuff splattered against the skin was blood. I didn't want to think about whether it was new or old. Once its skinny finger had fully left the frame, it revealed this disgusting black mass of a mouth pulling up into a grin, if I could even call it that. The intention within its facial gesture was one that you'd see a psychotic killer pull. One that you'd see right before you would die. A thundering thud abruptly sounded behind me, causing me to let out a breathy scream as I spun around, losing my footing and tumbling onto the floor below. "I didn't think you were afraid of large parcels," my dad said to me in a mocking manner. The moment I stood back up enough to look back at the video, it was gone, and the video was back to being live somehow. The joyful sun radiating against the pavement and cars. I don't know what the hell I saw in our security cameras recording that day, and I think I'm better off that way. Sometimes when I walk downstairs in the middle of the night, I go to the security camera's television and check for just a moment. And just like it knows I'll be looking, it's there, every time. Still smiling at me like it did in the recording. I don't think anything could possibly happen since we seem to have been living in harmony for years without even knowing it. But now that it knows that I've seen it, I'm scared that I'll somehow end up being the newest blood painted against its long fingers.